My name is Alicia, and today I'm with Christopher Hodges, author of the new book, Placing Stones, Doing and Having What Matters Most. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you very much.
So if I was to sum up this book in just a few words, it's about achieving success without regret, right?
I agree with that. I think that the way I would describe the book is the goal is for someone to read the book and be able to achieve whatever level of greatness they aspire to achieve without regretting what sacrifices they've made, or to sacrifice certain things in their life and not regret the level of achievement they may have had if they hadn't.
So before we get more into, how one might achieve success without regret, tell me about the impetus for writing the book, because it sounds like it may have come from personal experience, maybe?
I think probably stories like this often have personal roots. So in this case, the personal root for me, I was on my way in to see a movie. I was with my son and my wife. It happened to be the same day that my father passed away of terminal cancer. I knew he was dying, obviously, but that was the day. The film we were going to see was a family film about a father and a son, so an interesting connection there. I sat through the film, which was wonderful, with my son and my wife. And I have a great relationship with my kids and my wife. At the end of the film, the name of the producer of the film came up. That happens to be someone I know, and I knew that, of course, before the film started. And the sense of career envy was overwhelming, was just simply overwhelming. Wow, wouldn't it be great to have done that? And the film went on to be award-winning and very financially successful. However, what I also knew was the enormous number of sacrifices that person made in order to work on that film and the previous films. So I decided at that moment, either make the decisions to do what it takes to be that successful, or readjust my thinking and be happy with some of the decisions I had made, which had resulted in the family I had, etc. And the person who made the film worked a lot, was not in great shape. In fact, was quite overweight, didn't have many relationships in his life, didn't have time for those things. And I knew that. Nonetheless, there was that tug. So the impetus for the book was resolving for myself, it wasn't really a book at first, that issue, that dilemma.
And it seems like a dilemma that almost everybody has. I mean, I can even think in my own experience of seeing, maybe somebody who I think is like me, a woman, and maybe kind of extrapolating from what you see in front of you and thinking, oh, they must have a great life, and how envious.
I agree. And when you get an idea in your head, you don't know if you're the only person who's thinking that at that moment. And so I didn't start to write a book. I started to talk to other people about that. It happened to be at the beginning of a season where everyone comes over for barbecues. And I found many, many people who I knew were struggling with that same question. It's this, you see someone who's doing something different than you are, and maybe you feel envious, or maybe you feel like you should have done that. But what they don't do is look at the whole person. They don't say, in order for that person to have these incredible relationships around them, they've had to sacrifice part of their career. Or in order to run the Ironman triathlons, you probably can't have the amount of time you'd like to have doing other things. So what I found is different people I knew had made different compromises in different areas. So I agree with you. I think it's very common for people to struggle with that question.
And the analogy that you make in the book, and is the title, is about placing stones. So tell me the history behind that and why you chose to use that analogy in the book.
Well, stones is a metaphor for what I call the human currency. And the human currency is time and energy. It is any country, any time in history, the only thing human beings have really ever have to spend is a concentration of time and energy. And time alone is not going to get you there. Sitting on the couch thinking about something is time, but it's not getting you towards something. And energy alone is not enough to do it. When you combine time and energy together and spend it, as I say in the book, spend it in the ways that you deliberately want to, that's when you have a reasonable chance of expecting some success. The stones actually come into how the story plays out and where the people are in the story. But I found that placing stones has sort of an earthy sound to it, and it gets away from some of the modern distractions, and it really focuses on how do you place your time and energy.
Which is a finite amount.
It is finite.
Time and energy.
And everyone pretty much has the same amount, if you think about it, plus or minus an hour or so you sleep. You get up every morning, every day, you look yourself in the mirror, and then you do something with your time and energy. And you can let that time and energy be wasted and squandered away on frivolous websites or newspaper articles that depress you, or whatever you're doing. And people have 1,000 ways to waste their time. I certainly do. Or you can put that time and energy in a concentrated way into the areas of your life. What I try to lay out in the book is that there is sort of a devil, an evil thing out there in life called the stress and frustration of thinking about what you should be doing differently. And that is a waste of time. That is what we all need to reduce. Where you spend your time, it ought to be deliberate. You ought to place your stones deliberately. And you shouldn't waste your time thinking about why you're not doing X, Y, or Z.
One of the things that I thought was really clever about the book is that we learn about this concept through a character named Colin. And I just want to read a couple of these chapters you have here. Chapter 9, So You Want to Be Mr. Rogers. A lot of these are really clever. You have chapter 11, Superman is in great shape.
Right.
Really funny. So tell me, what was behind the literary technique of using Colin as the story to tell what placing stones really means?
Well, that literary technique sounds like it was a lot more deliberate than it actually was, but I think what I was looking for is a vehicle or a story to get the point out. And what I chose was a character that is certainly semi-autobiographical, but if you're trying to make a point, you often have to deviate from what you know yourself and to the lives and stories of others. And I have this character, Colin, meeting people who I've known in my life, and that's what some of those chapter names you talked about. People who've achieved world-class success in various areas of their life, financial, relationships, health and fitness, and personal growth, and those are the 4 areas that I focus on. So that what I wanted him to see was that you in fact can achieve world-class success in these areas, and this is what you do. It just so happens, the front part of the book, is that the steps people follow are very consistent to achieve that level of success.
And you kind of go with him on this journey. And along the way, I really found myself in some of these chapters, Colin's in a coffee shop, for example. And when I was reading the book, I really could relate Colin's life experience with my own. Was that your intention when you wrote the book?
That is exactly my intention. I spend, I'm a gold card carrying Starbucks member, right? So I spend quite a bit of time in Starbucks. And I find that that is a wonderful place for these kinds of conversations. And I think a lot of epiphanies happen in coffee shops and in restaurants. You know, you hear the story about the plant on the back of a napkin somewhere. I think that's where real life happens. It doesn't happen in some, ethereal place. And so, yeah, I hope that people can relate to those places and ideas.
Great. Well, tell me a little bit about some takeaways from the book. I mean, what are people going to be able to do once they finish reading it? I mean, it's an easy read, it's a great read, but how can they really apply these concepts to their lives?
Well, I think awareness is the first goal I'm trying to have, that people can see that they feel these ideas and concepts. And then, to your point, the second idea would be action. So what do you do about it? Well, I think that many people live their lives almost as if it's an old record player thing where it's going around in a loop. They get up and they're doing the same thing. The next thing you know, they have a habit going. And so the first level of awareness would be, where are you placing your stones? Well, what does that mean? Are you putting time and energy together into things during the day? Or are you squandering your time? And you can simply, tick that off or write that down. I have this handful of small stones that are from the book that I use sort of as inspiration. You could place those stones in the different categories that you're placing, or you can simply check them off on a piece of paper. And I think what will be illuminating to people is how much time and energy concentrated are they really spending, and how much time is just kind of frittered away somehow that's not helping toward anything. So that would be one. It'd be the first most tangible thing to do is know what you're doing. And then the second thing to do, and there are a million ways to evaluate your goals and think about things. I've broken the goals I think people have into 4 categories that generally encompass where people are trying to go, is write down what you really want to achieve in those areas. And then I think the third point, so now you've identified what you are doing, you've identified what your goals are, what are you willing to do less of? And what are you willing to do more of?
The trade-offs.
Where are you willing to put your stones that you weren't putting them? And for that matter, not waste it, make sure you have those stones to use. So make those trade-offs. And it is very important. It's not just that you have the stones every day. You can squander your whole day away and have no stones. And I think we've all had days like that. Or you can put that time and energy into what you really want to do. So I hope those 3 things are things people can do.
Excellent.